So we're going to start with Mr. Taylor. And first, before you give, please give us, 30-second soundbite of how you would want someone to describe you. And then please take 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't realize I was to give a 15-minute talk here, but
Well, no, it can be less, but
I'll do my best to make my time useful. My name is Jared Taylor, and I'm the founder of American Renaissance, which is primarily a website, but it's also a YouTube channel, and we do podcasts. We used to put out a monthly publication, started that in 1990, so I've been doing this for 28 years. In 2010, we went all to the web, and that way we can reach far more people. And as I described myself in the movie here, I am a race realist and a white advocate. Now, what do those two words mean? A race realist is someone that recognizes that race is a biological phenomenon. I don't think it's some sort of sociological optical illusion. People of different races have evolved in different environments, and that has produced the different physical differences that are very clearly visible. And the idea that somehow, when you see a black person or an Eskimo or an Asian person, and you are seeing some kind of social construct rather than biology, I think that idea is just so obviously wrong and stupid that only very smart people could persuade themselves that it's true. It's just a goofy idea. Race is a biological phenomenon. And I think that race is an important part of individual and group identity. It's not some sort of little airy-fairy thing that we can overcome if we just set our minds to it. Race, I think, is too deeply imprinted in us for us to say we're going to live in a post-racial society. I think that may never come. Race is too important for that. Now, what is white advocacy? White advocacy is a recognition that whites, just like every other racial group, have legitimate group interests. Black people have organizations that push their interests, so do Asians, so do Hispanics. But if a white person says, look, we have an interest in doing X, Y, or Z, that is considered white supremacy, that's neo-Nazism, so that you can have a black professional association of psychologists, of police officers, of firefighters. If whites did that, no, don't you dare do that. Now, in the movie, I was also quoted as saying that I think the word white supremacy, that should be retired. Because what is a white supremacist? I believe that word applies only to white people who wish to rule over and dominate people of other races. Certainly, historically, that has been a phenomenon. The idea of taking a certain race of people and making only them slaves. That's certainly white supremacy. Whites going to Africa and saying, we are going to run this place, or going to India and saying, we are going to run this place. That's white supremacy. That is domination of people of other races by whites. The idea that I have is that I believe the primary legitimate interest of whites is to survive as a distinct people with a distinct culture. Now, there was quite a round of applause in this room among you people when I predicted that if in 200 years...
Let me give you some advice. Don't say you people.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Eric Holder can say you people, or my people. There was quite a round of applause in this room when I predicted if...
For the ladies and gentlemen in the room.
For the ladies and gentlemen in the room, that when I predicted that 200 years from now, if current trends continue, that there is millions of non-white immigration, and that whites dare not say that they're opposed to interracial marriage, there'll be no more white people. Now, I don't want that to happen. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. But I think that I have a legitimate interest in preserving my people. I would never wish that on any other race, blacks, whites, Asians, anyone else. I don't want anyone to disappear. What I want for my people is exactly the same things that I want for every other racial group. In other words, the opportunity to develop in the way that is compatible with their heritage, their destiny, their desires, and their own unique temperament. I want black people to be the best possible black people they can be, and that's not likely to be the case in a multi-culti America where every racial group is jostling for some kind of advantage over the other. I want black people to build Wakanda. I don't want black people to be mixed with other people blaming us for what I think are the shortcomings often of blacks. I want black people to be proud and independent, just the way I want white people, Asians, Hispanics, every group to be proud and independent. And you don't get that by some kind of constant mixing in which there is nothing but conflict and tension and bean counting, how many Oscars were nominated for Hispanics, how many people in the Harvard graduating class are going to be Asians this year. Diversity is a constant source of tension and conflict. And for that reason, I believe since most people are more comfortable with people like themselves, we should not stand in the way of those who wish to go their own way. I believe if blacks wish to have their own society, their own part of America, they are legitimate claimants on a piece of this land. Black people were brought here against their will. The idea that somehow white people are going to say, oh, no, we made a mistake, we're going to take the whole place back. No, that would be illegitimate, impractical, and utterly immoral. Black people have a right to be here. And I believe that they should pursue their own destiny entirely under their own steam. I'm a Marcus Garveyite. Marcus Garvey, yes, Marcus Garvey. He started the Universal Negro Improvement Association. He was a man who wanted uplift for his people. What was his slogan? Rise up, ye mighty race. One of the fellows in this film was saying exactly the same thing. If we unite, we're an atomic bomb. We can do it. It's just a matter of doing it. I believe in the present state of the United States, if there were a genuinely unified movement of black people in America to say, look, we are tired of living on the white man's plantation. We want an opportunity to build our own society, be our own police, be our own government, be our own educators. And we are willing to take a certain part of it where we would be the majority and we would take responsibility for our own destiny. I do not believe that a solution of that kind is impossible in the United States today. And I think, at the same time, for the survival of my group, whites, with our culture, I believe we also should have that opportunity. Now, if there are people of all races who wish to mix it up, God bless them. But I think that most people are happier with people like themselves, and we should recognize the legitimacy of those among us of whatever race who wish to go our own way. Now, that is my general view of race relations in the United States. To talk a little bit about some of the things that came up in this movie, which I thought was very interesting, full of very interesting observations. There is one thing, though, that I would take exception with, and that is the general assumption of, across the board, universal malevolence on the part of whites. White people, you may not want to believe this. Most white people don't spend their time thinking about black people. Most white people, they're too busy making the payment on the car, getting the kids' teeth straightened, making sure that the house is not falling down. They are not thinking about how to oppress black people or anybody else. They're just trying to make their way in life. And somehow the idea that the United States is run by people who are constantly waking up in the morning, spitting on their hands, rolling up their sleeves and saying, how am I going to screw white black people today? No, there are no such people. Donald Trump does not wake up in the morning and say, how am I going to screw black people? No, not at all, not at all. And the idea that somehow white people, despite their good intentions, and I believe they have good intentions, most of them have good intentions. Maybe there's some rogue cops who do not. But I can assure you, most white people have absolutely no desire to do harm to black people. The idea that we have designed a criminal justice system that goes out of its way, to imprison and incarcerate millions of innocent black people. Who benefits from that? White people want black people to be working, paying taxes, not consuming $30,000 or $40,000 a year, taking up a place in jail. No idiot white person wants that. And the idea that somehow we are all so twisted and sadistic that that is what we genuinely want for black people, no. That is just completely wrong, and if you are suffering from that illusion, set it aside. The idea that what Donald Trump talks about the fact that black unemployment is lower now than it's been in, what, 20 years, 25 years? Do you think he's really thinking, doggone it, I wish they were out on the street. How come they've got those jobs? No, he wants black people to have a job. This idea that somehow we are all seething with some kind of racial hatred and resentment, this is complete fantasy. And in a way, it gives black people more importance in the minds of whites than they actually have. As I said, most of the time, white people walk through their entire day without thinking any particular thing at all about black people. And the other fact is, most of the interactions personally, day to day, between whites and blacks as strangers or as acquaintances is not anything that could be described as a race war. What was described as a race war here in this movie has primarily to do with police activities and also the simple fact that blacks and whites are not performing at the same level economically or in terms of academic achievement. I do not think that constitutes a race war. You can call it that if you wish, but if there ever really is a race war, it will be an utterly and entirely different kind of thing with people at each other's throats killing each other. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's absolutely no need for it, and I think its chances will be even less if blacks and whites who prefer to go their own way have that opportunity and have the encouragement of the authorities rather than constantly being told that that is an illegitimate desire. How am I doing on 15 minutes?
You've got a couple more minutes.
I've got a couple. Okay.
You can give it to question and
all right. I'll have a drink.
You'll have a drink. Okay, before I let the professor take over, I just want to comment. So here's the danger of a gentleman like Taylor. We've all seen the rabid racists, the kind of individual that white folks run from. The one that uses the N-word, the one that takes a car and mows down an innocent white woman. That's easy for the media and for our community to be concerned about. The danger with someone like Mr. Taylor is that he's articulate. Don't you just love when white people say black people articulate?
Hey, I am articulate.
No, he is. He's articulate. He's obviously educated, Yale degree. But he's dangerous because he seems reasonable. And he tells you, oh, by the way, my son was named after Marcus Garvey. That's where he got his name from. So he tells you that, he wants you to be free. He wants you to have your own community. They did that to the Indians. They gave them their own land. They gave them the worst land. They did it to black people when they said, we're going to give you your own schools. And they do it now. In New York City, on the Upper West Side, they're fighting over, they don't want to let black kids into the nice white schools on the Upper West Side. So when we as a community, then I'm going to go to you, when we as a community get angry over the white person that uses the N-word or the cop that shoots, the danger is that there are 1,000 times more white people like this gentleman here who are soft-spoken, who don't want us living in their neighborhoods, who won't hire us, who call the police on our children because they're selling lemonade, or as in the case of the black man who's babysitting the two white kids, or the case in Brooklyn here in New York where the white woman said that the young black boy grabbed her ass. And when you look at the videotape, it was his backpack accidentally rubbed up against her. So that's the danger. And I'm just going to end by saying that you're to blame. You in the audience, when you take your money and you spend it on materialism and consumption, and we don't build our banks, we don't build our independent media, we serve as economic slaves. We were slaves by bondage. Now we are economic slaves. We don't own nothing in New York. And in Manhattan, as I run for Manhattan Borough President, I'm running because black and Latino people are being pushed off this island for white real estate developers to build, not for us. So that's the danger of someone reasonable like him. That's why, listen, if we had a rabid racist up here, we would have a line of cops here. But the danger is that the media and good white folk will say, you know, they should have their own area. Please comment. Thank you.
I assume I'll get a chance to comment too.
No, you want?
Well, I sound
This
reasonable.
is New York hospitality.
Thank you very much. We Southerners appreciate that.
Oh, did you need another bottle of water? Wow.
You know, I swallowed that with a glove.
Can we have another bottle of water up here? And please, unopened. We don't want him to get suspicious. So just make sure the bottle is sealed.
No.
Go ahead.
I sound reasonable because I am reasonable. I am reasonable. And look, another important point to make is this. All of you who believe that the United States is this systematically white supremacist nation, wouldn't you expect me to be in a position of some kind of authority, of legitimacy? The things that I'm saying are what I'm sure all of you believe. Every single one of us secretly thinks, but dare not say. Well, if that's the case, if that's really what Donald Trump, if that's really what Brett Kavanaugh, if that's what all of them genuinely think, even Hillary Clinton, that old fraud, she thinks just the way I do. If you all believe that, why is it that I have lost my Twitter account? Why is it I have no Facebook account? Why is it that I am banned from Great Britain? I cannot travel to Great Britain. Why is it that I used to have a consulting business because I'm an expert in Japan and I do business with companies that do business with Japan? How come all of that consulting has completely dried up? How come I'm an anathema in official white supremacist America if it's the fact that all white people really think like me, but are just too scared to say so? Why is that?
Okay. Before he starts, does anybody have tissue? Because I'm just like crying up here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you still have a Twitter account?
I do.
Well, okay. Okay. How come you have one and I don't?
Because
It's because this white supremacy just missed a beat somehow?
Because I don't say nasty things about white people.
I don't say nasty things about anybody, white, black, or orange.